You're off.
Yo. So, what is a true documentary? Well, before we define what is true, we're going to have to talk about the context. Oh, sorry, let me start again. Before we define what a true documentary is, we first need to define our understanding of what true means in this context. We're going to do this by looking at a few different things. The documentaries we often see are skewed by so many negative things, it's hard to even name them while watching them. For example, Human Planet. It's touched the hands of producers, media people, editors, Western businessmen, more so than it has ever been handled by the cultures it explores. And that's not even to mention the means in which we present these programs. They get cut up into nice consumable chunks and slotted in between ad breaks. So it's really easy to be cynical about documentaries. So why believe that story? Why believe that truth when there are so many motives running underneath it? Sorry. A famous anthropologist, Marvin Harris, described this as the trappings of circumstance, an idea that whatever's created, even his own papers, are all informed, twisted, and even tainted by the trappings of his circumstance. So in many ways, we shouldn't strive for a definitive truth untainted by the trappings of circumstance. Instead, he suggests that we should revel in subjective truths we find, because most, if well argued, are valid. Yeah, there's a problem. It doesn't work if there's no face behind the documentary. That's why I've always been gripped by documentaries that have people in their forefront, creators or presenters. To be your Lou Ferrous, your Adam Curtis's, or even Michael Moore. Why? Well, their context helps drive the narrative, the truth. Because what is a narrative but a truth we simply believe? This is something Kubrick played with our ignorance of visual information, our suspended disbelief and assumption that a camera wasn't looking into someone's eyes, we were. If I had to define what made a good story, a good narrative, I'd say, you can't see that. With a level of confidence, it's a good story is derived from verisimilitude. Our ability to believe something our ability to believe that something has had or is happening, or engagement and suspension. For lack of a simpler term, verisimilitude is basically believabilitiness. So let's assume that truth is born from circumstance and later proved by our ability to believe in it. So I think documentaries that exploit narratives with verisimilitude is where the belief that documentaries are true stems from. But really it's just a fallacy. As we discussed, truth is a dangerous word because there's no common consensus over what truth means. We all like to imagine that a documentary has heart, a vision behind it, that somehow the person or persons involved with the project have managed to take a puritanical approach to the film. They without the hindrance of half-truths or quagmires. Because subjectivism is hard, truth is hard. In a lot of cases, why bother? Especially when you know your audience is just going to assume you're right because it's a film or a television show. That somehow everything you say gets passed through an auditor, checking for truth. But we just know that's not true. An example of this is Fargo. Now, I'm sure most of you have seen it. The Coen brothers claimed that it was based on a true story. It even says so at the beginning, and I think it says so at the beginning of the TV show too. But it's not true. They made it up. A woman even killed herself when she couldn't find the money hidden by the not real criminals from the not real kidnapping. It's a really dark story, but I'll move on. This also colours the circumstances. So saying something is true colours the circumstance you view the film in. All their biases and opinions, their backgrounds, their appearance, it informs our truth. With knowing the presenter, the crew, and the people who would be associated with them and her, it allows us to create a more informed decision regarding our understanding of the film and our film's truth. This is why I've chosen a short clip from a documentary that I've rewatched quite a few times. It's Michael Moore's Bowling for Columbine. Now I think Michael Moore is not as an impressive filmmaker as some claim. I've seen all his other films and often they get lost on tangents and feel really schizophrenic. He's sometimes abrasive at the wrong times and too gentle at others. Yet I still appreciate his work. I can criticise and enjoy, and that's mostly because there's an identity in his films. Something you don't get in Human Planet or Benefit Street. If you're reacting to something about something in those programs, all you have is a rule to interact with. Or Twitter if you prefer. Anyway, let's watch a small clip and I'll talk a bit more about it. So this is from the beginning of the film.
Yeah, I'm here to open up an account.
Okay, what type of account?
I want the account where I can get the free gun.
Okay.
I'd spotted an ad in the local Michigan paper that said if you opened an account at North Country Bank, the bank would give you a gun.
You do CD and we'll hand you a gun. We have a whole brochure here you can look at. Once we do the background check and everything,
Right.
be sure to go.
Okay. All right. Well, that's the account I'd like to open.
We have a vault, which at all times we keep at least 500 firearms.
500 of these you have in your vault.
In our vault.
Wow.
We have to do a background check.
At the bank here? Or?
At the bank, which we are a licensed firearm dealer.
Oh, you are? You're a bank and a licensed firearm dealer. What do I put for race? White or Caucasian? Or
Caucasian.
Caucasian. And then you're going to make me spell the Caucasian. Is that right?
Yes. I don't think that's the part they're going to be worried about.
Have you ever been adjudicated mentally defective, or have you ever been committed to a mental institution? I've never been committed to a mental institution. What does that mean? Have I ever been adjudicated mentally defective?
It would be something involved with a crime.
Oh, with a crime. Okay. So if I'm just normally mentally defective, but not criminal.
Exactly.
There you go, right. Okay, thank you very much. Wow.
I have one personally.
That's a nice signature.
It is, it's a straight shooter. It's a straight shooter, let me tell you.
Wow. Sweet. Well, here's my first question. Do you think it's a little dangerous hanging out guns at a bank?
Right, so Falling for Columbine was released sort of after the wave of like anti-cynicism that came, you know, just before the turn of the millennium. It was a really introspective time, a retrospective time for culture and really where we came from. But this is the start of the film. It's quite a slow documentary. It's about 2 hours long. It's mostly about American gun law, you know, the fear-mongering of American media, and also the American class system, but most prominently it's about the Columbine shooting. It's still an incredibly relevant film and a controversial film in America. It did win several Oscars, and quite famously Malcolm Moore was booed off the stage because he climbed up on the stage and to receive his Oscar. He wasn't just doing it crazy, but he climbed on the stage and he started criticizing the Bush regime, and he got booed off the stage. It's quite interesting to watch. I don't have to clip it. Here I think we can see highlighted Moore's rather abrasive attitude. He's a participant in his film. He also likes to recut and reuse archive footage for his own purposes. There's a famous scene in this film where Moore plays off American foreign policy of about the last 80 years. It's sort of CIA coups, violent overthrowings of dictators, and dropping bombs and very, very dodgy things. But in the scene, he cuts it to the song "What a Beautiful World," and that plays for about the length of the song. And just before it finishes, as the lyric, "What a Beautiful World" comes in, it cuts to a video camera of the Twin Towers, and the second plane comes in from the left. And it's a really, really horrible scene, and I didn't feel comfortable watching it, and I didn't feel comfortable putting it on the monitor. It cuts to black right as the impact happens, but it holds the audio, and that I think shows more like the editing style of the film. It's really aggressive, and it doesn't hold punches when it feels like it's on. It feels like it's right and just. If you haven't seen the film, I'd suggest watching it, but I meant to change this frame a while ago and I didn't. But I want to ask the question, is it true? Well, I think the people in this film are telling their own truths. How much worth you put in those truths, that's down to you. That's down to your circumstances. That's about it. Thanks.
Okay, questions for Harry?
how true do you feel this documentary was, and how do you feel it could have portrayed people's truths better?
That's a good question. I don't have a lot of confidence in law now. I think that's a very relevant piece of film, and I would put a lot of truth behind it. It really holds my punches. So yeah, I whatever it means, I believe in that film. So yeah.
In some ways, though, do you think the sort of Moore's egotism takes away from the truth of the film?
Sometimes I think a lot of egotism is attributed to him when necessarily he doesn't have it. So he just has that stigma, and people view it through the perspective that he's very egotistical. When really, sometimes I think he's just trying to be a normal guy. But, so yeah, I certainly think that colours his films quite a lot. But it's a lot about his life, about his family, where he grew up, his hometown. He's really fixated by that, and that could probably be too much for some people. But then again, he's celebrating the situation and the circumstances. Like Marvin Harris said, it's the trappings of circumstances, and more. He utilises that a lot more than anyone else I know.
Thank you very much, Harry. That's great. Okay, James Richardson.